NIMBYism has to stop at some point. There has to be a breakthrough. Is Starmer's answer to build on the green belt, though? Is that the solution?
Well, yes, unfortunately, I do think that. I mean, that's part of the solution. I think we also need to build upwards. I was reading recently this comparison of density, actually, in Anglophone countries. Our cities are much less dense than in other Western countries like Spain and France, where they build upwards. And actually, because we don't build upwards, we sprawl out and we tackle more of the green belt than other countries do. So we don't have to do that. So it's either, but we have to build more somewhere, right? We can't just not build. And it's interesting to watch Richard Holden saying, you know, when they're in power, they don't do what they say they will. Was he talking about the Labour Party or the Conservative Party? Because I thought the Conservative Party was going to solve the housing crisis. Rishi Sunak, until last year, was going to uphold this housing target, which is now dropped, you know, so which party is he talking about there?
And that brings up Michael Gove in all of this. He was sort of outlining some of these plans he's bringing in today at the NatCon conference, and, you know, he's had a tough time in this particular portfolio, hasn't he? Because he's failed with being able to bring in those housing reforms because of NIMBYism. Backbenchers saying, well, we'll lose our seats if this goes ahead, and obviously the Conservatives don't want that. So will he have more success, do you think, with these rental reforms? Or, you know, I mean, the Telegraph will tell us that there's dissent within the party even on these measures.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's just hard, it seems, to get the Conservative Party to agree on anything these days, anything that with long-term outcomes as well. It does seem like politicians tend to just be looking at short-term, what's going to win them the next vote, and that is really disappointing. But I think that's why Michael Gove was put in that position, because it's such a tricky situation. If you remember, Robert Jenrick, before as Housing Secretary, just couldn't really make much headway. OK, Rishi Sunak is in Tokyo. It's time for the G7. Out in Japan, trying to make friends. G7 has found itself a new purpose with the war in Ukraine. Of course, Donald Trump famously didn't even bother to turn up. Is anything going to happen this time, or is it just another global talking shop? Yes, I think it will be a talking shop. The problem at the moment is it's not just Ukraine, it's also China. Japan is very, very keen to get everyone on side with its thoughts on how to stop China's economic coercion, or what they call economic coercion, get all of the G7 countries to come together and really kind of face up against that threat together. Japan is also keen to get all of these developing countries that China is so good at making friends with to come to the G7 as well, countries like Brazil, countries like Vietnam, to come to the table. But can they actually succeed? I mean, there's so many rifts within the G7 at the moment that it does seem difficult to really kind of do anything world-changing at one of these things. But it is important to have these regular summits so that the world leaders do see each other and do keep communicating. And,
you know, perhaps it won't be a sort of G7 unified outcome, but certainly just with the host nation, Japan, the UK is hoping to announce a big cooperation pact. Can you tell us any more about that?
Yeah, so this is actually a renewal of a pact that has already come and is mainly focused on defence technology and other high-tech areas. Semiconductors, for example, renewables industry. All of these things are things that Japan does so incredibly well. And, you know, as we've already hinted at, the UK doesn't actually do very well in a lot of these cutting-edge technologies. So kind of having that pact, sharing the research expertise, sharing the research funding will be very, very good, I think. I mean, Japan is now a larger economy than the UK's. I mean, it's the third largest economy. So this is the partner that the UK really needs.
OK, Cindy Yu, thank you very much indeed.